Hey there, this is John,
And I'm Josh.
and we're going to be talking about the final week, the results of Week 14, championship week of the 2018 college football season. And were there surprises this week?
For the most part, no.
Yeah,
There were not very many surprises.
that's how I felt about it. Since we talked about the Marshall Virginia Tech to open our last one, we're gonna start off with that one. And Virginia Tech handled that pretty handily.
They did. They did an excellent job. They won 41-20.
Yep.
And
One of the things about that, though, it was actually that actually sounds like Marshall was sort of in it, but really Marshall scored 14 points in the fourth quarter.
it was just sloppy
So
time.
there really wasn't
Players.
anything. Yeah. I mean, Virginia Tech already knew they had the game, so good on you, Virginia Tech. I mean,
Great win.
you've,
It was a good game.
You made yourself bowl eligible and into the bowl, so that's something to hold on to there.
Absolutely.
It was bad that you had to use that game to make yourself bowl eligible, but still.
Also true, yeah.
Okay. Then we had a battle of the Pac-12 defenses, I guess you could call it. I mean, number 17, Utah, goes into number 11, Washington.
Yes, this hasn't really surprised me. It does surprise me how low scoring it was and how disappointing Jake Browning's final season has been with Washington, and how that offense has just sputtered to a non-existent stop. But
I mean,
Washington wins 10-3, and that's after pretty much 2 weeks in a row of just excellent wins for Washington after they beat Washington State, and now they're beating Utah. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in their New Year's Six Bowl now that they earned a spot in one of those.
Yep, that's right. And then we had the Big 12 championship. So Texas and Oklahoma, a rematch between those two. And this time, Texas didn't have what it takes.
They did at the beginning, but then it all fell apart. Like we said, it's hard to beat a team twice.
It is.
And Oklahoma was playing for a little bit more than Texas was. And that's for...
And 39-27. I mean, at Oklahoma, they did their job.
They did, and they won it.
Yep. Then we had the ACC championship. Yep. And that was Clemson versus Pittsburgh, as we talked about last week.
Just the embarrassment.
It was boring to begin with. I mean, it was well.
The embarrassment that Pittsburgh was one of the best teams in the ACC. Just wow.
Yeah, that's
Man,
I mean,
so
what else can you say with that?
Clemson won 42-10, continued their dominance against weaker opponents, and claimed their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, the game in my mind, and it's unusual because normally, honestly, most of the SEC games of late, actually for a while now, have been pretty boring. The championship games,
and this was a game that people didn't think was going to be pretty boring.
No,
people did think that Georgia was going to be able to come in there and compete with Alabama.
Yeah. You have number 4 against number 1, so I mean that's a pretty good matchup.
But let's talk about just the story of this game for a little bit.
So
Georgia's up.
Yep,
they're up big.
Georgia really. I mean, if the game only lasted 3 quarters, Georgia whipped Alabama all over the place. I mean, Alabama 3 and out. I don't know how many times. It was so many times.
So Alabama has, what was it? It was either 7 or 14 points when Tua got hurt.
Yes.
I think it was 14.
14.
Yeah,
because it was 28-14.
It was 28-14.
Yeah.
14 points. Tua gets hurt.
Yeah.
And then Hurt comes in.
Yeah, Hurts comes in.
And first off, this is like the irony in this situation. Like that was the word they
used.
Same
as the national championship game.
It is incredible. The story of Hurts deciding to stay.
Yeah.
Being benched, being the secondary quarterback, and then getting a chance to come in yet another massive game. And this time, instead of Tua being the quarterback who comes in and wins at the last second, Hurts comes in and shows, and I will say this, Tua is 100% in my mind the more talented quarterback.
Yeah.
But the experience and composure that was seen in Hurts in the final quarter and minutes of this game was absolutely mind-blowing.
It was.
His absolute just the intelligence of the choices that he was making. The second he came in, the whole momentum of the game changed.
It did.
Right when he drove down that field the first time.
And I would definitely say Georgia didn't know what to do.
They didn't.
they had no idea what to do with Hurts.
And wow, they have to hate themselves. This is twice now where they plan for one quarterback and then lose to another.
Yeah, you got to feel bad for Jake Fromm. I mean, my goodness, that guy played an incredible game.
Oh, it was like 4 touchdowns. I think he got all of them and like no interceptions.
He was fabulous in that game.
And it didn't seem like the Alabama defense decided to start playing until Hurts came in. Like after that one drive where Hurts drove down the field and scored.
Now, Alabama's defense definitely started playing better in the second half. Outside, the first half was horrible.
And we're going to say this, and this is what was concerning about Alabama and what will be concerning as we move forward. Georgia's offensive line dominated Alabama's defensive line. Yeah. And that's a big deal for a team as great as Alabama and as great as they claim their defensive line is, to be completely shut down by Georgia in that aspect.
Yeah.
They need to fix something. You know they will. Crazy win.
They will.
Congratulations.
It was an incredible win. 35-28 was the final score of that one.
Nick Saban got emotional during the...
He did get emotional.
After the game when he was talking about Hurts and just how proud he was for Hurts staying. And man, if you missed that, you should go watch highlights. It was a phenomenal game.
It was a great game. Okay.
Then, speaking of great games.
Yeah, Big Ten. The Big Ten championship. I guess you could call it a championship. I don't know. I mean, this always reminded me of the ACC.
Yeah, it was another. It was at least Northwestern was ranked. Yes,
Northwestern definitely better than Pitt as far. Yeah, but Ohio State number 6 going into that, and number 21 Northwestern, and it came out just like it sounded there. I mean, it was 45-24. Ohio State did not struggle and tried to. Ohio State was really fighting for something there. To be.
Man, they were hoping Oklahoma would lose, and Georgia.
Yeah, a lot had to happen for Ohio State to have made it in there, but
there was a lot required.
There was,
and they did do good.
They did,
and besides a couple, what was an embarrassing loss to Purdue in the season where they got destroyed by them, they didn't have a bad season.
This is true,
but they just weren't all there, and with all the crap about Urban in the beginning of the season and the problems that they were having with that. They were never all together and never just the team that they probably could have been, especially with their quarterback. But they did win their conference, which is always a big deal.
It is a big deal. It is. Then Mountain West Conference.
This was arguably the second best game.
Yeah,
as far as
it was a great game. Now I really think that it was what 19-16.
19-16.
And Fresno pulled that thing out even in the midst of their situation in terms of they're on a snowing the field. You would think that would go
against Fresno. Does it count as a loss on the blue field if it was white?
If it was white, yeah.
No, just kidding.
But yeah, I mean it was definitely a struggle. This game was a fight.
And I think what it came down to was two things. One, it's hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
And that showed in both of the games in the conference championship.
Yeah.
With Oklahoma beating Texas and then Fresno State beating Boise State. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And second, the play calling on Boise State's part, not letting Ripon really throw the ball at all the entire game. It was just kind of Madison.
It really was.
And not choosing to drive down the field with 1:30 left in the fourth quarter, but instead going to overtime.
Yeah.
Just a couple questionable choices. That being said, a 10-3 season for Boise State.
Yeah.
It's not a bad season to have.
Not a bad
especially
season.
Now that you're out of
not what they wanted, but
not what you want, but it's unrealistic to think like a 10-win season's a success.
Yeah, it is.
A conference championship is what we're always striving for, obviously, but Fresno State's a great team.
They are,
and it's a tough loss, but it's a respectable loss, and it'll be interesting to see what Boise State does next year, especially since it'll be a lot more of a rebuilding year than the past couple.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your upset of the week.
Yeah,
and that was okay.
I had it right for the first half.
But like you said, never call an upset against UCF, right? That was your rule. And
this was just embarrassing. Embarrassing on Memphis's part.
It is embarrassing. I mean, the final score 56-41. And the fact that UCF scored 21 points in the fourth quarter and Memphis scored 0 in the fourth quarter. So that was the game right there.
So what ended up happening, and I don't know why or how, but like Memphis, their running back in the first half got like 200 running yards, and in the second half he got like 15.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So maybe that's a great adjustment by UCF defensively, just to
how
shut
that happens. Down. Like, how do you only get 15 yards after 200-yard first half performance? Yeah. Who knows? Sure. Great week. Now the bowl games are out. New Year's 6 is decided.
So join us.
It was crazy
as we talk about that.
Yeah.